Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's New in Rocket.Chat. Today we are talking about the release 3.0.0 with all those breaking changes, new features, improvements, and bug fixes that the team have been working so hard on. I think let's start with the breaking changes. So those are the main reasons why it's a major release, why we moved from 2.xx to 3.xx, and the main change behind this was the upgrade to Meteor 1.9, and by consequence the upgrade to Node.js 12. So if you're using Docker containers for your deployments, that's not an issue. All our containers will come with the correct version of Node.js. It's all shipped part of the bundle by default, so you don't need to worry. If you're using Snap, that's also going to be upgraded automatically. But if you are not using those deployment methods, you are actually compiling or building Rocket.Chat on your own server on a controlled environment, you will have to upgrade Node.js prior to running the next version of Rocket.Chat. So please, pay attention, do so, and make sure you're running always the indicated engine versions that you have on the top of every release, right? Just so information, Node.js 12, NPM 6.13.4, and MongoDB, the minimum version right now is 3.4, and all the way up to 4.0 and 4.x. So one other thing that it's a consequence of upgrading to Node.js 12 is that TLS version 1.0 and 1.1 has been disabled by default by Node 12. If you depend on some legacy systems and have some connectivity issues, then you need to re-enable those TLS protocols. You're gonna have to use some flags, something like dash TLS dash mean dash v1.0 or dash TLS dash mean dash v1.1 to keep them running and re-enable those protocols on your Node.js. So just be aware. Another breaking change, which is more because of the behavior maybe not expected by users that have been changed, is the way that now you can customize what system messages are going to be suppressed on the client side. And we are doing this on a per room level. So you have a per server configuration when you can configure what type of messages you don't want to be displaying by users. And you have a list like user entering channel, user changing the channel title, user adding another user. So there's all the big list of system messages. You can choose type by type which ones you think are relevant on that channel or on your whole server, and the ones that are not. And the reason we made this on a per channel basis is because maybe you have a default channel like we have in general on the open server where everybody gets added to that channel. So the amount of messages of saying user enter channel and user left channel are quite annoying in the middle of the conversation. So you can go on that specific channel and turn off that kind of messages. But in other groups, that doesn't happen very often, and you actually want to know when someone joined that channel because it was more of the intent of the user to join that channel or to leave the channel, and you want to know what's happening. So you have this granularity. There's a per server configuration, all the system channels, all the types. You can choose one by one, and you can also do this per channel. So hopefully this will help some large communities out there that are having a problem, and this kind of granularity might be very useful for different use cases. Another breaking change that is more related to the UI, and we put this on the breaking change so the admins know if some of their users are using this feature notice that it disappeared, they know that it's not just a bug, it was actually a decision. Not many people use it, but and it's a very old feature where on the sidebar where you have a list of channels, if you're grouping them by type, you could have a counter on the side of the name or the title of every type saying how many channels you have on that specific category or that type of channel. So we would see that you have maybe 400 direct messages, for a few hundred private channels or public channels. And that information, after start using Rocket.Chat for long and having so many channels, it started to become kind of useless. And a lot of users were actually getting confused and thinking that that was the counter of unread messages rather than just the number of channels that you have on that category. So we decided after testing and getting some feedback from users that number wasn't really adding that much value. It was even taking CPU to calculate, and every rendering have to count the changes of the number of items on each list. So to make the code simpler, to make it more optimized and more performatic, we end up removing this feature. So if some users will see this information missing, just be aware that's a feature that we actually removed, and right now there's no intention to bring it back, because not many people are using, and the code was just making the code being messier. And the last breaking change on this version is that we finally removed some of the deprecated publications from the system. So we have been for quite some time now moving some of the publications that we think were not necessary to be used in publication-specific scenarios, where a REST API would be more performatic, would get the same end results, but be a lot easier to deal with. We will slowly start migrating all those endpoints into those REST APIs and deprecating the publications. So we used the opportunity on this major release to add these breaking changes, the drop of the code that was managing those publications, again making the code slimmer, more performatic, and removing some unused publications was part of it. So you probably won't see any change. You probably already using the REST APIs to get the same information because they've been available for a while, and the deprecated message have been being shown on those API endpoints for a while. But if you weren't, and you now get a endpoint that doesn't exist, and just so you know, all those are also available as REST APIs and with a better performance, and should be using those instead. And that's all for the breaking changes. And now let's talk about the new features that are coming up on this release. We have a couple of them that we are very excited about, and the one that we are the most excited about is the UI kit. The UI kit is a set of components for interactivity that you're adding to the messages, and the whole idea is that the applications can interact with users on the message thread using select, buttons, user lists. There's a date selector. There's the whole set of components that the app can use and to interact with the user, and it can even have a button to open a form and have a much richer input from the user. This is coming out, being released both on the web client and the mobile client at the same time. So if you're building apps using the new apps engine, you'll be able to already create those apps and publish them and get your users interacting with your apps both on the web client and on the mobile clients. I think this is one of the most exciting things that we've done on the last couple of months. People here in the office have been playing with creating apps for all sort of things, automate a lot of process, data inputs, and integrations with our CRM and other systems, and we're very excited about. And we are really wanting you guys to give it a try, kick the tires, give us some feedback. This is just the first batch of components. We have a whole list of other things that we are building, and I hope you guys are gonna be so excited about as we are. So yeah, let us know, please. We also have another new feature. There was a big request from our support team. When sometimes people open a ticket with us, we have to just reply with a list of questions about what is the environment they're working on, what is the specific version, what is the memory on that server. And so there's a lot of things that help us debug problems with the deployment. And all this information is usually available on the admin panel on the info page. But then people have to take a screenshot or have to just copy and paste and have unformatted data. So what we did to help our support teams is that you now have a button to download that information as a file and then just submit that file to our support team. And that will speed up the process of us helping you with your deployments. You can inspect as a text file that you can look what information you're actually sharing with us. So there's no surprise there. It's mainly all that is just listed on the admin info page, but in a way that we can use and process and then can expedite the support and make your life and our life easier. So please, if you're opening tickets with our support team, try to always go to the admin page and download that file and submit that file together to help us. Okay, thank you so much, and thank you the support team to having this nice idea and adding to the product. We also have worked on a nice new feature for the omni-channel users to help them sort the list of open chats on a customized way. So until now, all this listing of the conversations that I have with the users from WhatsApp, from Facebook, from WeChat, they were always seeing them on an alphabetical order, which makes it slightly harder for you to find what the conversations, the active ones, are happening. And now the users, agents can customize how they want to organize those channels. So they can stay on top of the conversation without having to scroll up and down, and they can do either by activity or by username, and there's a new set of ways for you to organize and provide the best service you can. So hopefully this will help a lot of the agents out there using Rocket.Chat in getting their work better and easier. And still on the omni-channel, another nice feature out there is that now you have actually an interface for users to see all the custom fields and custom attributes that are added for the visitor on a specific conversation. So now if they go and open the info panel for the conversation with a visitor, they will be able to see all the data that was inserted by the external systems, right? So if you create a custom system to see if that person that you're talking to is already a customer, or if they have a different plan on your services, or there's any other information that you injected via scripts for that specific conversation. Now the agents have a easy way to see on this UI that was built for visualizing the custom fields for the visitors. I think this is very helpful. It's actually a long time requested feature, and it's finally out there, so enjoy. And we have some very important improvements that the team worked on that I would like to talk about. One of them is a big change on how we display not display the presence, but how we process the presence of users and actually broadcast them to the other users. Until now, it was a very simplistic approach where we would broadcast every presence change to all the users connected to a server. And now we finally changed to do a on-demand user presence request by each of the clients, and then only broadcasting the presence to the clients that actually have that presence being displayed on the screen. So it's a lot more complex because you have to deal with who cares about whose presence, but on the upside, it's much less load on the server when you have a lot of online users on a server. So you have a few customers with thousands, tens of thousands of users connected. So imagine every time the user connected for the first time, you would get the full list of the thousands of users that are online, and then all those users on any change of their presence status will be broadcasted to everybody, and maybe they were not in anyone's lists, but it still would be broadcasted on those thousands of users. So right now, only the people who have maybe a direct message of that user or you seeing them on a specific list will be asking for the presence updates and receiving those presence updates. So this was a big change. Will save a lot of CPU and on large deployments, and we are very proud and very happy to manage to accomplish this improvement. Also, another improvement was a whole major overhaul of the data importers. So as you might know, we have importers in Rocket.Chat for Slack history, HipChat history, CSV histories. So there's a lot of ways where you can actually import data from other chat systems into Rocket.Chat. We're starting to get customers with larger and larger data sets that they are bringing from Slack or from HipChat or from other platforms. So we actually have to redesign the way we process those files and stream them, and to be more efficient on how you use the memory and how you do the data import without blocking the system or taking down the server, and being more also resilient into if there's problems along the way, rather than shutting down the whole importer, and you can actually just deal and list the problems to be fixed later, or work on that import later. So that was a big effort done by our development team, just to, as we get more customers migrating to Rocket.Chat. Please give it a try. If you're migrating from one of the other tools, try it out and give us some feedback. And it should be working a lot better right now. And one kind of major improvement that users shouldn't notice any difference, but just for our community to be aware and let us know if you see anything different maybe that's related to this. We removed a very old I'm gonna say, it's not like a hack or a trick that I've done in Meteor to how we used to render the message on the main channel. We created something at the time called non-reactive rendering, because the UI framework would get very bloated and heavy with all the changes and the reactive changes that we'll be monitoring in case there was a change on the data there to apply those changes to the message on the screen. And because you start having tens and thousands of messages, all those changing points would get heavy. So we created something called this non-reactive render, where we would just listen to any change and then redesign the whole screen rather than going on a precise mode. So we removed this. By all our tests, the framework has improved, so that issue is not a problem anymore. The side effects of the reactive rendering is not a problem anymore, but you might maybe still see some glitch, or if there's any old code depending on it. Yeah, please let us the front-end team know. And on the good side is, if you're watching a video that was shared on a YouTube link and if someone gives a reaction, the video will not stop anymore. And before, anytime did a reaction, we re-render the whole message. But now, having the reactive rendering, you can just re-render the very specific button that counts the number of reactions. So a lot of the interactivity should be improved now, and because of the upgrades on the framework, we don't have the downside of the performance. So please let us know if you find anything behaving weird on the UI, but hopefully you see a lot of improvements on this very fine-tuned reactivity on the UI. And at last, we have obviously a big list of bug fixes that the team have been working on. I'm gonna just go for some of the most relevant one for you guys out there that have been waiting for some of those bug fixes. So there was a fix on rooms not being marked as red sometimes. There is a delay, and sometimes it will be faster than the user interaction. So this has been fixed. Now the rooms are being marked immediately as red when you enter in. There was always some check controls around the highlight.js, so it doesn't freeze the UI when you actually send a message with code that needs to be highlighted, and it could be causing the CPU to spike and the UI to freeze. So this has been fixed. There was a section on the description of the roles. So some of the tags for the user roles inside the channel, inside the organization, were not being displayed. There was a problem on the description field. That has been fixed. Also missing the edit icon on some of the newly created messages. There was the status of the message when still being sent. Sometimes would make that icon not be appearing there or ready to be used. That has been fixed. And then also on the same note, sometimes sending multiple messages would conflict, and some of the messages would be dropped during the status of the input being put on sending. So that has been fixed, and now all the messages are just being sent automatically and immediately. We are now also on the imports. There was a lot of work done on the imports, and now the import will not stop if there is a user missing or someone that was deleted. It will just then highlight the missing data was not imported before. There was an error when successfully joining a room by invite link. So now, yeah, invite links is one of the new features that we added on the last release, that you can add external users and send them an invite link, and then you'll be automatically added to that channel. There were some bugs on the messaging that was fixed. We fixed some issues with the Jitsi integration. When you're starting a call, in some edge scenarios, were causing multiple messages. The file upload feature inside apps, the get buffer was not working properly inside the App Engine. That's now had been fixed, so the apps can use those APIs for managing files. There was also an API bypass rate limiter permission that was not being taken into consideration in some APIs, and then causing the caller to be blocked. We use this API sometimes for an internal system that's talking to Rocket.Chat. Then you can whitelist or give the user that is using that API specific permission to bypass the rate limiters. Now this is actually being enforced. We did a big upgrade on the live chat widget to work across multiple tabs. So if your conversation is started in one of the tabs, it's now broadcasting the status to the other tab. So all the tabs are always synchronized, and then if user have started a conversation in one, they jump to another tab on your website, you're going to see the live chat widget is actually in the same state. And the invite links proxy was also had some issues on our wasn't working properly with the CDN, so we had to do some workarounds to fix it. So these are like the main bug fixes. You can still see there's a lot more bug fixes that are maybe relevant to you on our release change. And I think for last, I would like to give a shout out to the contributors that were involved on getting all those features out, getting some of those bug fixes, some of those big improvements. So I want to give a shout out for Cool Fire, Antcast. I hope I'm saying all those names correctly. Otherwise, sorry guys. Ashwani, YDV, Arrival 243, Mr. Simpson, Hitsinga, and Vicky Ocorn. So sorry if I didn't say your usernames correctly, but I just say that we are always so grateful for all the community that helped us with every release, every bug fix, every new feature, and thank you guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy the new features coming out on this release. We have some very interesting ones coming for the next release as well. And so stay tuned, subscribe to our channel, and get all the updates about what's going on in Rocket.Chat. Till next time, take care.